Whether it's solar, wind, energy efficiency, biomass, we have events all over the state to help people go see what's going on. So we do a lot of education. That's a big part of our mission is outreach and education. And then we also host events, like I said, and we just try to connect people to technical resources. So what do you want to do, and who knows how to do that? We probably know who they are. So there's a lot of matchmaking that goes on. And then we do provide grant funding for innovative energy efforts, and we do some other programming and campaigns focused around helping local governments and other groups do very specific energy efficiency projects. So when we talk about energy efficiency, it can be anything from, on the bottom middle, I don't know if you can tell what that is, but that's a LED streetlight. On the left is a geeky guy that we work with replacing his programmable thermostat with a sweet pair of goggles. We also do campaigns. We did one recently around Vending Miser. A Vending Miser is a vending machine energy saving device. You just plug it in and it saves half the energy in your vending machine. So there were a lot of local governments that took part in that campaign. The thing on the far right is the little machine that you use to clean dishes in commercial kitchens. And those can save like 30 to 40% of the heating fuel in kitchens. So that was another campaign we ran. And then we do a lot of work on benchmarking energy use and trying to help local governments and schools and other groups figure out how they're using energy. And we often partner with schools, and these are students on the far right using an infrared camera to see where there's cold air coming through their walls in their school in the wintertime. So we do a lot of that kind of work, helping people figure out how to save energy in their buildings too. And then renewable energy, I just wanted to kind of show the breadth of work that we do. We work on biomass, wind, and solar, and we also do a little work on geothermal. So we provide a lot of consumer resources also, and this is a guide called the Bright Light Guide, and it tells people all about their energy efficient light bulb options, which might seem a little silly, but once incandescent bulbs started getting phased out, everyone started getting worried about what bulb they were going to buy next, and so we put together a guide that talks all about their options. And we've been partnering with utilities, municipal utilities, co-ops, and IOUs to customize this with their branding, and they've been getting them out to their customers. So far we've customized this for 100 different utilities, and your municipal utility could be next. So that's one of the direct services we provide to cities. We also do a lot of blogging. We write hundreds of stories a year about successful things that are happening in Minnesota. And we put it all in this Minnesota Energy Stories section of our website. We have about 10,000 people subscribe to it, so they get an email from us every couple weeks with new stories and funding opportunities, just a lot of different things that are going on in the energy efficiency and renewable energy world. And then that also gets sent out to media outlets who pick it up and tell local stories in their part of the state. So that's our storytelling work. We'd like to pull out specific examples for local governments too. So we have a whole section dedicated to local government energy action that you'll find when you get to the blog. This was an example of a city that put in variable frequency drives in their wastewater treatment plant that's saving them a lot of money. And then they also installed biogas digesters for renewable energy. So it's a big deal. We have been doing a lot around solar, so you've maybe been hearing a lot more about solar. Lately, there was legislation passed in 2013 that made Minnesota kind of a sweet spot for solar energy. And so there's a new thing called community solar, where people can put solar in a really sunny place, and then people can subscribe to that solar project and actually get credit on their bill for the solar that's produced. So if you have a shady house, if you live in an apartment, if you just don't want to, go through the hassle of putting it on your own roof, then you can work with your utility or a company to subscribe to a project, and then that production actually shows up on your bill. So it's kind of a cool new thing that's going to be starting up here. Well, has really just started. There are projects at co-ops around the state. So Tri-County Co-op, which is, I think, right around here, just north of here, They have a brand new project, and it's really something that's taking off. So solar, going to be seeing a lot more solar out there. And one of the examples of a decision-making tool that we recently worked to put together with the University of Minnesota is a map that shows you where shading occurs across the entire state of Minnesota down to the 1 meter level. So for every single 1 meter of Minnesota, we now have an online map that you can go check out that shows you where good places are for solar. We found a bunch of geeks at the U of M who work in mapping, and told them, what if we make a map for the entire state? Usually people just do it for a city. So city of Boston, New York City, several others had made maps like this, and we wanted to do one for the whole state of Minnesota. So we did. So this is Rochester. I don't know if you could tell. You can see where we are right there. I don't have a pointer, but there's a tiny blue dot in the middle, and that's the Mayo, but then right to the right of it is where we are. And then you can see how good the solar is. So the brighter the color, the better the solar. So you can see the Mayo building right next to us has like some of the best solar potential in downtown Rochester. Yes, exactly. And then the building next to it already has solar on it. So that Damon parking ramp, I don't know if you've seen the top of it, but you can see a picture in the bottom left. It's a whole field of solar covering the whole Damon parking ramp at the Mayo. And that's just 2 buildings away. So they picked a good spot. When you click on that spot on the map, it's a very good sunny spot, but just not quite as good as the building next door. So this is a service that we're providing to local governments also, because some of them do their own mapping. So you can either come on here and just look at where the sunniest places are in your city for solar, or you can download all the data for your entire county that you're in and then get the data just for your city, so that you have access to that yourself. So you'll get these slides afterwards, and there are URLs to all this stuff if you feel like checking it out more. But yeah, it's a pretty cool new tool, and we just launched it this summer. So this is one of the first times we're talking about it. It'll be at the Eco Experience building at the State Fair if you want to try it out there too, if you're roving around the fair in the next couple weeks. One of the other tools we provide is a database of the solar and wind companies across the state. So when people decide, hey, I do have a really sunny roof and I'd love to find out more about how I could do that, they can go check out our Clean Energy Project Builder database, which will help them find companies near them. It's pretty representative of the whole solar and wind industries in Minnesota. So it's a nice place to go. It's also a free place for companies to be listed. So if you know anyone getting into solar or wanting to get into wind, it's a nice place to be found. It's kind of like an Angie's List for clean energy in Minnesota. We also plan a lot of events. So we just, this spring, we planned a big solar conference. We had a lot of cities and counties in attendance who were interested in moving solar forward. But we also hold a conference every 2 years in St. Cloud that we're going to be doing again March 10th and 11th in St. Cloud of 2015. And it's focused much more broadly on energy efficiency and renewables for local governments, for businesses, for residents. We'll have a lot of programming just for cities there. But these are examples of the kinds of events we do. So from conferences to tours of local energy facilities. The one on your right is a great big new solar project that was just put up in northeastern Minnesota, and on the bottom left there, that's a state-of-the-art biomass boiler that a company in northwest Minnesota makes. One of the most efficient, cleanest wood boilers you can buy. So a lot of people in northern Minnesota thinking, we have a lot of wood up here. How can we do energy with that? And also, hey, propane just got a lot more expensive, so how can we switch to something that's not as expensive? So, so biomass has been a big interest of late. Now I told you we do some campaigns, and that we did one with vending misers recently, we did one with spray valves. We're doing another one right now that's specifically focused on LED lighting for farmers. So, you know, Minnesota's the biggest turkey producer in the country, and so we're working with our awesome turkey farmers to reduce energy use in their barns with lighting. So that's one. We also have a gas station lighting campaign. We're helping gas stations that are independently owned change out all of their canopy lighting with LEDs. So they can save up to 80% of the energy they use by switching out their bulbs. So it's kind of a big deal. It's a big energy user. So we do all the research behind it, and then we ask companies to put forth products that meet our requirements, and then we go out and find people that want to save energy. So we kind of do a lot of the hunting and groundwork for you. I talked about some grant funding that we provide, and over the past several years, since 2006, we have given out over 223 grants. And they're not big grants, they're only for labor, so it won't actually fund the system, but a lot of times it's harder for people to find money to pay people to do work. And so the grants are under $10,000 and they're catalyzing grants. So a lot of times folks will get one grant from us, they'll get a grant from their local utility, they'll get a grant from their regional economic development group, maybe they'll get some money from the USDA or the Department of Energy. But it's nice to have some money to get started and attract other money. So that's kind of how our seed grants operate, and we give them out every year. So this fall we're going to be opening up a new round of seed grants, and your city might, because there are a lot of projects there, but we'd love to add your city to that map also. Another program that we work with that we helped to get started in 2008 and 2009 and really started gathering cities together in 2010 is Minnesota Green Step Cities, and I see a couple faces in the room, people who are Minnesota Green Step Cities. But we try to put together best practices that cities can work on. It's specifically for small and medium-sized cities in Minnesota. So when you see other best practice programs out there for energy and sustainability, a lot of times they're focused on the biggest cities. They maybe are very generically focused on all cities in the country. We're trying to make something that really works for smaller cities in Minnesota. And so we have 28 best practices across buildings and lighting, transportation, land use, environmental management, and then economic and community development. And the cities that have joined on have really kind of created this peer community too. You can go to the Green Step Cities website and you can see what every single city that's involved is doing and learn from their successes and also their failures. Not failures, lessons learned is what we call them. But there's a big focus on peer learning, and a lot of these cities have really reduced their energy use and the money that they're spending on energy through the program. So you can see there are 70 cities now in Minnesota who have joined. 16 of them are in your coalition, so there they are listed there. Yeah, shout out. And you can see them, that map is a little hard to see, but there's a pretty good spread of cities and a growing number of cities in greater Minnesota who are starting to sign on. So not only do they get these best practices and they get to learn from peers, but there's also a good bit of recognition and competition that goes on. So every summer at the League of Minnesota Cities Conference, we do an awards breakfast. And it's a place for all the Green Step cities to get together, to get their photo taken, and also to rub elbows and share stories with other cities that are working on it. So you may recognize someone in the crowd from Ely on the right, who's in this room. No? Okay. But these are just a few of the cities that are involved, and it's really fun. So there's a bit of competition and a lot of sharing. So it's just really fun. So cities do get awards. When they join, they're a step 1 city, and then they do a few things, they become step 2, and then they can keep sort of working through the best practices to gain new steps. And we get a big amount of press coverage for this, and cities just do a lot of sharing, as you probably know. Hey, what's your city working on? So it's been a cool way for cities to learn about others' efforts. So that's Green Step Cities. I want to shift just a little bit to talk about financing. So I know that folks try to find grant money all the time to get all sorts of work done. And energy is at this point where you can find grant money to do some things. But a lot of times you're working on projects that are, especially if you're working on lighting and other easier energy efficiency projects, some of them pay back in 2 or 3 years. Some of them don't, the much deeper retrofits, but there's a thing called performance contracting, and it is an opportunity for people to take the small things that pay back really fast, like lighting, and add in other things like big building retrofits or replacing equipment like boilers and HVAC systems, doing a lot of like windows and air sealing and insulation and all that kind of work. You bundle it all together, and then you work with an energy service company to guarantee the savings on those projects, and you actually pay back the work through your energy savings. So there's not an upfront cost. You don't have to go and do bonding unless you really like going and doing bonding. But energy performance contracting got a little bit of a bad rap several years ago because people were getting not so great contracts with companies. And so the state of Minnesota responded by creating their own performance contracting program, and it's called Guaranteed Energy Savings. So the difference here is that the state of Minnesota is creating a standardized contract, and they're going out and finding the energy service companies that want to play nice and work with that contract, and they're sort of, they're providing this level of safety and assurance that you're going to get the best contract and the best deal possible. So it's really kind of a sweet program, and you get to work with someone at the Division of Energy Resources who actually goes through your city with you, helps you benchmark your energy use. So there's this energy benchmarking system for the state of Minnesota that you can sign up for if you haven't already, where you put in your energy use and you get to track that over time. So if you're going to do a lot of energy work in your city and your buildings, then it's nice to know what kind of progress you're making. So they'll help you get into the benchmarking system, and then they'll help you walk through all of the different buildings and facilities that you own that use energy, where you could be saving, and if this program would work well for you. So it's really cool. It's budget neutral is the way they like to say it. So you're not having to put any money forth, you're just paying for it with your energy savings. So, and I'm going to go through a bunch of examples of cities that are doing work later, and we'll talk about a city that's used performance contracting. Another thing that's brand new that cities can't do for themselves, but they can do for the businesses in their city, is called PACE. And you probably heard about this a little while back because it was going to be a way for residents to do energy work. But PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. And even though it's not easy, you can't do it as residents, they've made it possible to do it for commercial, industrial folks and in any kind of business. And so your city or county actually creates a property secured financing district, and cities and local governments are kind of good at doing these things. Bigger cities can do it themselves. Some cities are choosing to get together and do it with their whole county, and then the county provides it for everyone in their county. That's a particularly greater Minnesota flavor of PACE. But then businesses apply, and they actually repay their loans for energy work as a property tax assessment for up to 20 years. So it's another program that eliminates the barrier of upfront costs to do this kind of work. And we're really finding a lot of interest in it in the cities and counties that have started to do it so far. So there's a program through the St. Paul Port Authority that is now available across the whole state. And there's another one by the Rural Minnesota Energy Board that is actually staffed by our Southwest CERT partner, Southwest Regional Development Commission. So I think that they have a lot of member counties now across southern Minnesota and into West Central. So anyone in their Rural Minnesota Energy Board territory can use their program. So it's a neat thing, and it's a great way for cities to be able to provide resources to their businesses to save energy. And do renewables. You can do energy efficiency and renewable energy with it. So I'm going to shift a little bit and just talk about what other cities are doing, because we've talked a lot about the kinds of resources we provide and some of the other programs and resources out there. But so I'm going to start with Bemidji. I'm going to start with some energy efficiency examples. Bemidji has replaced most of their traffic signals with energy-saving LEDs, and they're saving a whole lot of energy. They worked with the Department of Transportation to do this several years back, and were one of the first ones. There are a lot of other cities that are following suit. So I told you that we give out seed grants. One of the recent seed grants that we gave out in 2014 was to the city of Slayton, and they are working to replace 25 of their high-pressure sodium streetlights with LEDs, and they are actually working in 3 other communities also through Lincoln Lincoln Electric Co-op. And so your city is maybe a municipal utility, and in that case, you would have the jurisdiction to do this. If you aren't, then you might work with your utility, which is what these 4 cities are doing. And it might be some blend of the two. But yeah, so they're saving a whole lot of energy, and they got a seed grant from us to do it, along with the city of Russell, the city of Brownton in West Central, and then there was also a school district in Lamberton that we gave a grant to replace all their auditorium lighting. So don't have to just do street lighting. It's a great, great thing to do in your other facilities too. So another city that's doing this is Crookston, and they are going to be saving over $21,000 a year. So they kind of went whole hog on their streetlights and replaced 165 of them. The other city near them is Detroit Lakes that got a seed grant from us, and Tamarack in northeastern Minnesota to do their LED streetlights. So it's kind of if you haven't heard of it, you'll probably start hearing about it a lot more, because there are a lot of communities that are replacing their streetlights with LEDs. And the high pressure sodium lights that you see out there, kind of the orangey yellow ones that are pretty common, they just use a lot more energy. So these ones are 20% more efficient. And the other thing people are finding is they last a whole lot longer. So when you're thinking about the maintenance that it takes to drive out there on the road and get someone up there to replace a light, the savings that come from the reduced maintenance and replacement is an even bigger bonus. There's a lot of work being done in buildings. I picked one example here of Warren, Minnesota. They're a smaller town that worked with us with 2 different seed grants to do energy efficiency. They did insulation and air sealing, and a little bit of equipment work in their library and also in their city shop. And you've been seeing on the bottom, maybe a lot of these cities are also Green Step cities. So when they're doing this work, they're being recognized through that program for the energy work that they're doing. So Rochester is doing a whole lot of work on energy, and rather than list all of the things they're doing, they're a Green Step city, and they very quickly have risen to a Step 3 city. So they're really doing a lot. But one of the really cool things that they've been doing recently is it's pretty easy for cities to put in their energy bills and kind of see what kind of energy they're using across the city. But Rochester recently joined this project called the Regional Indicators Initiative. And it's something that we're doing through Green Step Cities, so it's just Green Step Cities that are working on this. But they're finding out what energy is used across their city. So not just in their buildings and in their operations, but by residents, by businesses, across all sectors in their town. So you can go on this website and you can see how they compare to other cities. So you can see that Rochester is doing better than St. Paul, Minneapolis, but Duluth, these are the numbers for 2013, and they've tracked it from 2008 to 2013. And Duluth and Rochester used to be right about the same, and Duluth has been really going down there. So I don't know, there could be a little healthy competition going on there between those 2 regional centers. But so yeah, they're really doing a lot to track their energy use, and they're doing this because they have a regional group that works on energy planning. It's the county and the city that work together, and they came up with an energy action plan about how they wanted to save energy and promote renewable energy in their city. And that plan talks about how they want to do that across all sectors. So this benchmarking was a way for them to figure out what people were doing. And the action plan, they got a seed grant from us to educate their residents, their businesses, and everyone in town about the energy that they're using. And now they can use this benchmarking to say, and look, here's what your sector's using, here's how you're doing, here's how your peers are doing, and here's how we could all be doing a better job. So it's a pretty cool example of a city really looking across all their sectors and trying to help other people save. So, but they sort of started with themselves, they got their own shop in order, and then they started talking to everybody else about it. So it's pretty cool. Duluth is another example of a town that's really been working hard to talk to residents about energy savings. There's a program called the Duluth Energy Efficiency Program, and they've been around for 5 years now, but they started working with low-income residents on energy savings, and then they've expanded to work with everyone in town now. But it's a program that where people can come up and say, hey, I'd like you to come to my house and see how I'm doing, and tell me where I could be saving energy, and then they work with the utility to provide rebates for the kind of energy efficiency work that people could be doing in their homes. So Duluth is another example of a city that's kind of stepped past the what can we do and into the what can we do for others. They recently redid their ice arena also, so they have a brand new LEED certified ice arena. And they got some major grants for that. I think they also bonded for it. So that was some big work, but that's work that you could do with a performance contract. And they got a C grant with us to expand their energy efficiency work and to look at where they can install very public solar electric projects. So they're looking at their city parks and other city facilities where they could install solar and have it be a real big educational bonus to residents. So, a place where people are coming all the time, think of your rec centers and your parks. Not only would they see a solar panel there, but they'd also get to learn about how it works and how they could do it themselves. So,
could you explain why they couldn't justify solar energy on their brand new airport?
I don't know why they didn't do that. Do you?
I know, I was up there about a month ago and the contractor toured me through it and I said, you got solar energy? No, we couldn't justify it.
Huh. Well, we should talk to him about it. Yeah, I'll give him a call.
Brand new.
Brand new.
One of the things we hear when we're that far north is we're too far north.
What?
You can look at my solar map I showed you before to see how good solar is up there. It is true. And their solar resource is way worse than ours, even in the northernmost reaches of Minnesota. So we have a pretty good solar resource across the state. The bigger concern for northern Minnesota is shading. So there are just a whole lot of trees. So it's finding those places with a good solar access, without shading, is kind of the bigger deal up there.
We love our trees.
I know. But this map I showed you will help you find the places that are already free of shade to put in solar, and maybe people can do community solar. That's a really good example of what people could be doing. So they're a Green Step City too. They just joined. They're our newest Green Step City. So all these other small cities around, we're doing Green Step cities way before Duluth. But they're still doing a great job. Speaking of community solar, that was an excellent segue, thank you. We gave a C grant to the city of Winona this year. They're working on a community solar project that's going to be 1 megawatt. So this isn't theirs, but think about a couple football fields full of solar, and that's about 1 megawatt of solar. So they're working to install that project, and they got a grant from us to do all the feasibility study behind it. So to work with a company to figure out how exactly would this work. And they're going to be signing up Winona, the residents in Winona County very soon will be able to subscribe to a panel and get their credit showing up on their energy bill. So we did a lot of the matchmaking to help them figure out who they should be talking to and how to kind of make the whole thing go also. So, speaking of solar on an airport, it's a much smaller airport, but the Brainerd Lakes Regional Airport, they put in a solar thermal heating system in their largest building. And it's saving them over $1,000 a year and over 500 gallons of propane a year. So these are solar thermal hot air systems. So what they do is they just cut 2 holes in the wall behind each of those panels. And they literally blow hot air into the room. So they're a really simple and underutilized technology that a lot more sort of commercial industrial spaces are thinking about using. I think I only have 2 more city examples here, and they're practically the same. So the city of Ely has been working a lot with community groups, and they're really excited about using woody biomass from up there to reduce their propane and delivered fuel use. and they want to do that on a citywide, like a district heating system using woody biomass. So we're really excited to follow that. And they're just an example of a community that's been working really hard on energy efficiency with residents and businesses just across the sectors to get a lot of work done on efficiency. So we've done a lot of work up there and also in Grand Marais. And they similarly are looking at a woody biomass district heating system and are doing a lot of public awareness about clean energy with a grant that we provided. So those are really all the examples that I had. Just wanted to kind of say, all right, here's energy, but here's what other people are doing. And if you want to learn more, there's my contact info. So thanks for having me.